It's time to explore one of Sweden's mid-sized cities. Everyone knows about Stockholm and Gothenburg, but less than an hour from Gothenburg you find the city of Trollhättan. Trollhättan has 50,000 inhabitants and it's Sweden's 23rd biggest city. 23rd biggest city. You might think that means that there's nothing to see in Trollhättan, and then you'd be completely right. No, I'm just kidding. There's actually a lot to see here. Trollhättan is famous for its nature and for its movie industry. There's also a Saab museum in the city, and the Subkult Festival recently moved back to Trollhättan, and the place also has a history as an industry town. So let's get started. Let's explore everything there is to see in Trollhättan. For a city of this size, Trollhättan has had a surprisingly large impact on the Swedish movie industry. In fact, the city is even nicknamed Trollywood, which sounds like a terrible and megalomaniac pun, but it's actually earned the title. The main reason is Film i Väst, a film production company based in Trollhättan since the 1990s. Film i Väst has made Trollhättan one of the most important filmmaking hubs in Scandinavia, with hundreds of movies and TV productions. Film i Väst has been involved in major Swedish productions like Fucking Åmål and A Man Called Ove. And those movies were a big deal in Sweden, even if you might not have heard of them. At one point, around half of all Swedish feature films were being produced or co-produced in Trollhättan. There's a Trollywood Walk of Fame in the city, and it's not really all that impressive, but then again, the Walk of Fame in Hollywood isn't very impressive either. And there's even a Trollywood sign in Trollhättan. It actually started as an April Fool's joke by the municipality in 2025. But people appreciated the sign, so now it's here permanently. I mentioned that there's a lot of nature in Trollhättan. There's a couple of mountains and hiking trails nearby, but the most significant feature is Göta älv. Göta älv is a river that runs from Vänern, Sweden's biggest lake, to Gothenburg on the west coast. And it runs right through the city of Trollhättan. This is Skrotnisses playground. It's based on a Swedish TV show called Skrotnisse och hans vänner, featuring really cool animated puppets and a quirky sense of humor. It's about how a junkyard owner and his genius hermit friend tries to avoid the evil city engineer Ture Björkman, and they run into lots of adventures along the way. Bertil, the hermit, decides to move to the Sahara Desert, for example, but the city engineer follows, and then there's a lot of weirdness and magic and even more weirdness. Anyway, I used to love that show, and apparently so did many others, because here's a complete playground dedicated to it. Trollhättefallen is a set of waterfalls next to Trollhättan, and it's been a famous area for a long time. Partly because of its natural beauty, but also because they've been used to power mills for factories. And they've also been a source of frustration. Before there was a canal here, the falls were much more intense and troublesome. You couldn't sail all the way from the North Sea to Vänern, so people had to unload their boats here. In the 1700s, 900 horses had to be used to drag goods the last part of the way. All of that improved once a canal was built, and a water power plant also reduced the intensity of the falls. So yeah, you can't really marvel at the magnificent big waterfalls any longer, but it's still an extremely beautiful spot. Forngården is an open-air museum with a collection of buildings showing a bit of what life was like in Trollhättan in the 18th century. The buildings are all authentic old houses, but they've been moved here from their original locations. The cabins and the museum are only open during summer and only on Sundays, but it's still a lovely place to visit. Something pretty interesting is a place called Kungsgrottan, the King's Cave. It's not actually a cave, it's just a big pothole that was created during the Ice Age. But most importantly, it's a sort of Swedish Royal guest book. Ever since the year 1754 to modern times, the royal family have all signed their names here. And last in line so far is Crown Princess Victoria, who signed her name here in August 2001. Let's move south of here, across the river. I think that it's time for a pretty special museum. If you know anything about Sweden's automotive industry, you probably know the name Saab. Saab started as an aircraft manufacturer back in the 1930s. The name actually stands for Svenska Aeroplan Aktiebolaget, but after the Second World War, the company decided that perhaps not everyone needed a fighter plane, so they started building cars as well. And they built some pretty unusual cars. Saab became famous for things like aircraft-inspired designs, turbocharged engines, and an almost stubborn refusal to do things the same way as everyone else. Ignition keys between the seats, wraparound windshields, quirky dashboards, and a fan base that remains surprisingly devoted even today. For decades, these cars were built right here in Trollhättan. The factory became one of the city's biggest employers, and Saab became part of the city's identity. Unfortunately, Saab as a car company went bankrupt in 2011, ending car production in Trollhättan. But you can still visit the Saab Car Museum to learn all about one of Sweden's most distinctive car brands. And even if you're not a die-hard car enthusiast, there's something fascinating about a company that looked at the automotive industry and said, "Hey, what if we built a car like an airplane?" Close to the Saab Museum, you can find the Innovatum Science Park. There's quite a few things to check out here. You can have a look at one of the old steam locomotives that were constructed here, called SJB 1320. There's also an Innovatum Science Center with a lot of family-friendly fun. And you can visit the NOHAB smithy that's open all days during the summer months. One of the most important companies in Trollhättan was NOHAB, founded here in the 1840s. They started out building railway equipment and locomotives, but NOHAB grew into one of Sweden's largest engineering companies. NOHAB's steam locomotives were exported all over the world, and they also manufactured turbines, diesel engines, and aircraft components. And today you can still visit the old NOHAB workshop that still stands as a reminder that long before this city became known as Trollywood, it was busy building trains. Göta Älv is the river running from Vänern to Gothenburg, and it's mostly a natural river, except for a 10-kilometer man-made canal. The canal opened in the summer of 1800, and the German general Theodor von Hallberg-Broich called it a Swedish triumph. It allowed people to transport lumber and goods from the mines of Sweden all the way to the North Sea. And it also connects with another very significant channel to the east of here. Gota Canal stretches all the way across southern Sweden, linking the Baltic Sea with the country's west coast through a chain of canals, rivers and lakes. When it opened in 1832, it was one of Sweden's largest engineering projects ever. Together, Gota Canal and the Trollhätte Canal created an inland route across the country, allowing ships to avoid the often rough waters around the southern tip of Sweden. I was gonna say that no cargo ships use the canal any longer, but then I saw a huge freighter when I was walking along the canal, so yeah, maybe it's used a little bit still. But mostly it's used for pleasure boats. And if you want to see the canal up close, you can take a little cruise from this area. The cruise takes a couple of hours and it costs 300 Swedish krona. That's approximately 30 euros. If you don't want to have a nice relaxing day by the canal in Trollhättan, you can also visit during the last weekend of June. That's when the Subkult Festival takes place. The Subkult Festival used to take place in Vänersborg, but since 2026 it's moved back to Trollhättan instead. And I say back because it actually started in Trollhättan 10 years ago. It's a festival dedicated to alternative music of all kinds. Punk, electronic, indie, you've got it all at Subkult. I'm not sure if this is the style of music that you like, but I definitely had an awesome time. Everyone who says that Sweden is a clean country hasn't been to Trollhättan on a Sunday morning. Aside from all of this, there's still more to see in Trollhättan. You can visit yet one more playground, a Macken playground. Macken was a beloved old comedy TV show in Sweden, and now kids who probably have never seen the show can relive their non-existent memories of it there. I'm not selling it all that well, am I? Trollhättan also has a lot of street art. There are plenty of places in town where you can admire massive murals. If you're a tourist, you might want to get some souvenirs, and then you can visit places like Handicraft. It's a store and gallery filled with traditional Swedish handicraft. And well, maybe not everything is traditional, but it's all handicraft either way. And you could also visit a fire truck museum in Trollhättan or learn all about GKN Aerospace with their bleeding-edge aerospace technology. Or you can go golfing or watch some motorsports or just have a fika and enjoy the town itself. All in all, there's a lot to explore in Trollhättan, even if it's just Sweden's 23rd biggest city. So how do you visit Trollhättan if you wanna come here? The easiest way is to go by direct train from Gothenburg. That takes less than an hour. It's also pretty easy to get there from Stockholm, but you have to change trains along the way. Still, it's just a few hours away. However, you might also want to consider renting a car. You won't need it for Trollhättan itself, but there's a lot of other interesting spots in the surrounding areas. I made a video about things to see in central Sweden, which is a bit misleading because this is actually still pretty far south, but I called it that anyway. It's central from a horizontal perspective at least. In that video, I'm showing off some of the castles and natural wonders close to Lake Vänern, so feel free to check it out for inspiration for other things to do close to Trollhättan. But now I think that it's time to wrap up this visit to Sweden's 23rd biggest city that still has a surprising amount of interesting history. Like and subscribe, but most importantly, have a great day!